Hello, YouTube. Oh, hang on. Let me just readjust myself here. Okay. So, this is part two of my review of the How to Train Your Dragon series. So this is DreamWorks Dragons. I have my notes here, and um, how to begin this review? So to recap my thoughts on the first How to Train Your Dragon, I really liked it. Like even though it's kind of filled with cliches, like it's still a really good feel-good movie that I feel like is up to par with some of Pixar's best. Like that's saying a lot too, because Pixar has released a lot of good movies. Now, I was actually gonna start with a How to Train Your Dragon 2 review, but then that's when I saw that there was a TV show, and I realized it, it's not fair to do a review of the series without doing what the stuff in between. Like I'm not gonna cover the direct to DVD, or was it direct to DVD? I know there was like a Christmas special or something, but I'm not gonna review those specials. I'm just gonna review the bridge between the first movie and the second movie, which is the TV show. Which is I heard is supposed to be like it fills in some things that might not make sense in the second movie, but here are my thoughts, okay? Now, my notes here, okay? So, short review, it's not bad. Like, okay, I'm making it sound like it's really bad, but it's not bad. Like, I just feel like I feel I was expecting too much from the show. Because, okay, if you like the first movie, you're probably gonna feel a little let down by the TV show. But then I thought about it, okay, it's fine for a kids television show. Maybe it's because I've been spoiled by like really good shows that's not this, but I can kind of picture my young self, like if he was watching the show, he would be fine with it. It's definitely not the kind of show that you should expect a lot of like gripping storylines and stuff. It's very much a kid show that doesn't really do overarching plots. Like, and it's fine that way. So I guess short review, I would give the TV show like a C. Like it's like passing. It's not exceptional, but it's not bad. It's harmless. It's just it is what it is. But yeah, it's still a little disheartening to see that not as much effort was put in the show as it was in the movie. And on one hand, it's kind of disappointing, but on the other hand, How to Train Your Dragon was like a feat. Okay, so like it's hard to produce like that kind of quality like constantly. So the kind of quality that they produce for a TV show is kind of warranted. But anyways, um, that's my short review. Going more into an in-depth review, let me start with the good because I actually have more bads than good here. It doesn't mean the show is bad. Like I said, it was okay, but I do have a lot more critiques than I do positives. But here are the positives first. Okay, like I said, my first note here was it's an okay show. Like how to describe it? Back in the day with all like old cartoons where you have an episode and it starts a plot and then the plot ends at the end of the episode and then the next episode is like a different plot. Mm. That's kind of what this show is like. It does have some overarching elements, but most of the time it's just a single episode series. And to be honest, it's kind of irritating, but it's, I mean, a lot of good kid shows have done this before, like Captain Planet, hell, Pokemon. Well, I didn't really like Pokemon actually. Oh, I know a lot of people are gonna, ooh, you don't like Pokemon, but Pokemon's not the focus of this review, okay? But okay, what I'm trying to say is if this show follows the basic formula of start a plot, end the plot next of this episode, moving on. It's not bad. It's just kind of irritating. And other good notes, like the first movie, good characters. I mean, I know a lot of I know a lot of characters have a different voice, but to be honest, I it's you don't really notice that much. But I feel like it's maybe because the voice actors that they got to replace the other characters were really good voice actors. Like Nolan North does a really good stoic, and the stoic in the movie was played by Gerard Butler. So it's even though you can tell there's a difference, it's still like a really good interpretation on North's part. Um, hmm. So yeah, likable characters. I mean, the the first movie had the first movie's cast here. They still work really well. I mean, at times, yeah, the comic relief can get kind of annoying. Especially, I mean, for me, the most annoying characters on the show are Rough Nut and Tough Nut. The idiot twins. But when I say they're annoying, it's kind of just nitpick. I mean, they do some things that are just like a little too stupid, but it's like something that you kind of accept. Like it's not something that comes out as like, oh my God, that's so horrible. Like it's not, it's just there. And my final note here, I actually forgot to mention. No, actually, never mind. Forget I said that. Um, my final good note here is it's fun to watch. I mean, yeah, it's fun to watch. Like the characters are fun, the standalone episodes are fun, and watching the dragons fly is still pretty fun, and it's funny at times. Like it's it's an okay show, in terms of this. But now going into the bad, okay, let me make it clear. I don't hate the show. I said it already, but I don't hate the show. But I'm gonna sound like I hate the show, but I don't. Just bear with me. So the bad I have here, there's no real direction on the show. And when I say there's no real direction, it's like it feels like when I'm watching the show, even though, okay, fine, even though if going back to the shows that have standalone episodes, those shows still feel like they're going somewhere. Like, in Pokemon, Ash is going to gym, trying to go to gym to gym. Here, it's like, I don't really know where this is going. Like, apparently it's supposed to be going to How to Train Your Dragon 2, but I would like more of like a push towards How to Train Your Dragon 2. Here, it kind of just feels like you're watching like an average day in the life of Hiccup, which I guess works, but at the same time, it feels there are times where I feel like I don't really know where any of this is leading, and or if any of this is build up to something. And it gets better as the show goes along. Like when like further on, they do start having these overarching plots. But in the very beginning, it's like you have these episodes where you don't really know where it's like headed. And also, yeah, another my next bad note here is the standalone episodes. And the thing about standalone episodes, like when they work, they work. Like I mean, you can do a show where you can have an episode where the plot can be resolved in that one episode, but there are times where I feel like the standalone episode idea doesn't really work. Like, I know there was one episode where Toothless had to fight had you see his nemesis where he had to fight the spike dragon. What was it called again? The Whispering Death. Um, or no, what's the tunnel thing? Oh, I forgot. But it was the tunnel dragon with the teeth. The yeah. And the reason why that episode was kind of a letdown is because you learn that Toothless and this dragon have a feud. And after that, nothing really happens. Like I thought it'd be kind of interesting to get more into the backstory of Toothless. Like even though it's a dragon and he doesn't really speak, he still has like emotions. So yeah, that's where the standalone idea doesn't really work. Like some episodes you kind of wish that they spent more time on, and sometimes when they do end it, it kind of doesn't feel like a definitive end. that's the main problem of a standalone episode. It doesn't give time to like it doesn't allow the writers to breathe into the story that they're writing. Like they have to end it at the end of the episode. Another problem, annoying villains, and I guess I can expand this to annoying characters. Like, okay, not the main cast. The main cast is fine, but there's just some characters on the show that I felt like were just irritating. Like, I didn't really understand the Heather storyline. I mean, okay, I understood it, but I didn't really understand why that had to be a two-parter. Like, she wasn't really that interesting of a character. Um, the really annoying characters though, like uh, I'm not talking about Bucket though. Not that character. I actually kind of like that character, even though it sounds like a character that I should hate. And for those who don't know, Bucket's this like Viking who apparently lost his half his brain, and he wears a bucket on his head, and people make fun of him for being an idiot. And it sounds like they're making fun of the disabled, but it doesn't. I feel like they didn't really explicitly say that he was like mentally handicapped. Like I feel like I'm digging way too deep into the show, but I don't know. I feel like I should hate Bucket, but at the same time I don't. The characters that I hate though were the I'm sorry, my eyes. The characters I hated though were the two main villains. What was it the old man Mildew and Mark Hamill's character? Was it Alvin? Yeah, Alvin. Which is actually a really annoying, a stupid name for a Viking. Oh, actually, not just Viking. There was his Hiccup's cousin, the psychopath Viking, who gets introduced later on. The three main villains, and they were just super annoying. Like, um, Mildew just came off as like he had like one trait to him, which was to start. He was the guy who shit up about the dragons, and I like annoying villains, but at the same time, I feel like if you're gonna go the route of having annoying villain, make sure they're like interesting to watch, because he didn't really have a character outside of he hated dragons and he was annoying. Um, and like a good example would be Joffrey from Game of Thrones. He was super annoying and hated by everyone, but at least he was still an interesting character. And then like he his backstory, like his childhood and how the throne corrupted him. Like I know I'm comparing Game of Thrones to How to Train Your Dragons, like. But what I'm saying is, if you're gonna have like a character as annoying as Mildew, make sure they're interesting to watch. You know, and that goes also for the other two villains. But at least on the part of the other two characters, um, even though they were kind of annoying, they were kind of fun to watch because the psychopathic cousin villain, uh, his craziness was like fun to watch. Like it was like watching what's the name of the actor? It was like watching a Nicolas Cage performance from. I'm comparing Nicolas Cage to How to Train Your Dragon now, but the psychopathic cousin, he was kind of like the Nicolas Cage of the show, and also Alvin, even though he's annoying, he's saved by the fact that he's voiced by Mark Hamill, you know. Um, but yeah, the villains were annoying in this, and even though they did have an overarching plot at some point, I feel like a little too much damage was done. Like the characters were just at this point just super annoying to watch, and I'm going too much on the villains. Just they were just annoying. Another main problem, the morals were tired. Like when I say they were tired, I mean, it's like that's a problem in the first movie, but here it's really evident because at least the first movie it was able to make up for its tired moral by allowing the story to breathe, but also making the movie visually appealing and also having very interesting characters. Here, we still have that, but since we don't have since the movie's not allowed, nah, not movie, since the show has these like short episodes, like we see the moral of the story just like blatant when we're watching it. And the reason why that's a bad thing is, okay, it's not a bad thing to have morals in your story, but it's it's annoying to watch a show and to know what the moral is going to be at the end of it. It's like you know how back in the day Captain America, no, not Captain America, Captain Planet, will always have that recycle. You have to recycle and do this because at the end of the episode, that's kind of how this feels like in DreamWorks Dragons. Like I remember there was an episode where Hiccup was in this competition and he never won the competition in the past, but now that they have dragons, he feels like he has a chance to win, and he becomes an egotistical maniac. And Astrid at some point goes up to him and says, "The reason why I liked you was because you were a humble loser, but I didn't think you would be what was it? Dismal winner? No, that's the Django, not the Django. She says something about him being a bad winner, and you know the moral of that episode is gonna be it's you gotta be humble in defeat, but also you have to be humble in victory, and it's just a really tired moral, and like it's like that in almost in every episode of the show, and I mean, it's not bad. I mean, kids need to see that, but it doesn't really make compelling television. Uh, but what am I supposed to say there? I mean, it is a kid show. So it's not catered to teens, so or adults. I'm not a teenager. Anyways, um, my final negative note here, the one that I had the most faults with. This show went back on the first film's ending, and when I saw that, I was just pissed off at first. This is my actual like everything else was like nitpicky. This is my first real negative on the show. It went back on the ending. Like at the end of the first movie, the Vikings have what was it? Grown accustomed to the dragons. They're using dragons, and Hiccup and Astrid get together, and everything's hunky dory. In the show, the first few episodes, the people still hate the dragons, and it's like it feels weird. Okay, I can kind of see what they're going at. Like, okay, they thought that dragons would be fine, but it's not because they still have to train them, and the town is still needs to go through training. I mean, that's a fine direction, but how they wrote that on the show felt wrong, like if that makes sense. Like in the very first episode, the dragons start messing up, and immediately the town goes, "We should get rid of the dragons." And it's like, wait a minute. You guys are not even going to consider trying to get the dragons under control? Like it's immediately we have to get them out. And it's not just the undoing the human dragon relations. It's also they undid Hickam and Astrid, which was I guess the reasoning also was that they're still teenagers trying to like discover where they stand with each other, but they kissed in the movie and they had a date, and it was clear that Hiccup had a crush on her, and it was also clear that she had a crush on him, and now they're not together. And it's like it's not explained well. Like they don't break up. They don't even like mention the kiss. Like it kind of just like it never happened. Like it treats it like it never happened, and it's super irritating because like it goes back on what was established, and it's fine if you go back, but at least like establish what happened in between, you know. Um, so yeah, that was a real disappointment. But anyways, let me wrap this up. How to Train Your Dragon, the TV show, or I keep saying that it's DreamWorks Dragons. DreamWorks Dragons. It's not a bad show. It's definitely geared more towards kids, whereas the first movie could be enjoyed by like everyone. So I guess Uh, I don't know if I should say skip it and just go to the second movie. I mean, yeah, I mean that's fine if you can, yeah, but if you want more like the full experience, I guess watch the show. But it's definitely not required to understand the second movie. Like I watched the second movie and it was just like it was fine. Like you don't need to watch the show. But the show is definitely like I didn't feel like I wasted my time at least. So yeah, okay, wrapping up DreamWorks Dragons. Mm, mm, it was okay.